Hey, it's Chuck. Today, Coach Locke offers a couple new running backs. Is there a Northern college football culture? I got some thoughts. Trey McIntyre scores a big win. Kirby Smart is a soft coach. And the Superleague you keep hearing about is not what you think. Let's get it. And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback. The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those. You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
That means we've got.
And welcome in. So yesterday, by the way, I did the interview with Dez and Deshaun Stewart. And then I did a Trey McIntyre update about the Trey story. If you haven't watched that, we'll hit on that briefly here today. But it's clear to me that your favorite format, my loyal listeners, is this format right here. So you've spoken loud and clear. I get it. We'll stick to the hits. I am here for you after all. That's not true. I mean, I'm here because I enjoy this, but you know, it is kind of cool that you guys watch as well. We'll do this. Is this what you want? But yesterday I recorded a different podcast. So I was a guest on a podcast, and there's the premise of the show is one Michigan guy and one Ohio State guy. And they are doing something called the 10-week war, which is a cool name, obviously, for the 10-year war, play on words, right? And they're having a guest alternating, one Michigan guy, one Ohio State guy, back and forth every week. So this was week 3, and I was the second Ohio State guest, right behind Chris Drew, co-host of Menace to Sports. So, you know, I'm creeping up the lineup there. That's not bad. That's pretty good. You know, pretty impressive, I thought. I was flattered to be invited, but didn't go great. It did not go great at all. I got this thing about me that, you know, my family knows. When I get excited or irritated, I start to talk really fast, and I get to talking really fast, and it comes off like I'm yelling. Now, it's something I work on. I've worked on it all my life, but you know, we had this issue with the audio when I was on the podcast, and I couldn't plug my headphones into the computer. So the headphones, the reason you wear them, and I didn't know this until I started doing this here. The reason people wear these headphones is so if I'm too far from the mic, I can hear that I'm too far. If I'm too close, I can hear that I'm too close. So that's what the headphones are for. Well, I couldn't use the headphones because I couldn't hear them. So I had to plug the headphones in the computer. So I'm not hearing myself when I'm talking, and I'm sitting here stressing, thinking, I feel like I yelled when I got a little excited towards the end of that interview. So it'll drop later, and if it goes good, I'll put it in the show. If it didn't go good, it'll never see the light of day on my end. That you'll have to go find it yourself. But yeah, I don't think it went good. I think I made a real jerk of myself. I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm pretty embarrassed, but you know, hey, you live and learn. Maybe I'm not meant to be a guest with a Michigan host on the show. I just might not be, and that's okay. As the situation that your program is in right now, honestly, if it weren't for the way you embraced the little dweeb dork hanger-on that brought all this garbage onto your program, the way that you guys embraced that little dork and acted like he's some kind of hero.
Talking about Conor?
Yeah, who else am I talking about?
No, I'm just making sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
You know, I just cannot stand that the way he's been treated as some hero. You have seen how Ohio State has treated someone in Terrell Pryor who embarrassed the program, and that was for basically nothing. This dude brought all this crap onto your program. Things you don't even know. More is coming. You look at your recruiting class, you got 3 Wisconsin recruits, and it's all because of this guy. And you embrace him like he's some kind of hero. I can't stand it. It drives me nuts, but it's on par. I get it. But you got a group of 5 head coach starting with a brand new staff. I mean, how stupid is this war manual? Like, I know a lot of you guys don't like him, but did he really not ask anybody if they were going to leave with Harbaugh? Essentially, he hired a guy that on the open market would have landed himself a group of 5 job to come in and be a head coach and hire a brand new staff his very first time at the University of Michigan. It is such an unbelievable train wreck. It's laughable. And honestly, kudos to you for getting your national championship. But my goodness, I have never seen a drop like this at a program in my life. And I'm here for it.
Objectively speaking, that was pretty good.
That's okay. I just got a real issue with the Conor Stallion stuff and the way they embrace him. I got a real issue with it because it's either one of two things. Either he did nothing and didn't help you at all, but brought on all this heat, then you should hate him. Or he didn't do anything to help you and brought on this heat, and then you should hate him. Either way, you should hate him. And they embrace him. And that bothers me to no end. They treat him like a hero. And I'm getting worked up about it again. I just can't stand it. I can't stand it. So enough of that. Our boy Trey McNutt, man. So Trey McNutt, and if you haven't followed the story, Trey McNutt played a 7-on-7 tournament during the spring. You're not allowed to play organized football as an Ohio high school player in the spring, or else you get a suspension. And Trey did get a suspension from the Ohio High School Athletic Association. And Trey actually, his mom went and got permission from his coach to play on that 7-on-7 tournament 3 weeks in advance, which is more than I think most people would have done. So they didn't even know about the rule. But when the suspension came down, Trey dug his heels in. Now the intent of the rule is to get football players, to encourage them to play spring sports. And if they play spring sports, the theory is then they'll have more participants and the spring sports won't die. So there's a noble cause behind the rule. But it's not fair to say you play football, therefore you are responsible to support these spring sports with your services playing. It's just not fair. It's never been fair. And it's a rule that's also held a lot of our high school players back. When we talk about the lack of quarterbacks and wide receivers and skill players in general that come out of the state of Ohio compared to other schools that put a roughly the same amount of talent into college, a lot of the reason is that. And, not all the reason, Stone Age offenses in Ohio for a long time in Ohio high school football certainly contribute to that a lot. But that's another thing that contributes. And those 7-on-7 circuits are just as much social as they are about football. It's where they network. It's where they run into scouts, recruiters. And it's just all in all a good thing for their development if they get into that circuit. And, they're either almost big time players or just guys trying to get recognized. Urban Meyer tried to change the rule in 2013. He went to the OHSAA. And for him, it was self-serving, but it was also going to help the kids. So for him, that's just a good time for him to go see recruits, that spring window that they're not allowed to play in. Same thing for other coaches. So while those kids never got, recognized by Urban, and I got an Ohio State offer, maybe the kids that he might have gone and seen, same thing goes for Akron and Bowling Green and Miami, Ohio. Those coaches never got to go see these kids either. And that is, that's gone. It's gone. Trey won. The rule's getting tossed. So great news. Kudos to the Ohio High School Athletic Association, the director, Doug Ute. And so many times we see an organization like the OHSAA did in 2013 dig their heels in and say, no, we're not changing it, despite all the states around us changing it in the early 2000s, because everybody had this rule on the books at one time around the Midwest. The OHSAA dug their heels in back then and said, no, we're not changing anything. They are tossing it out. And I really believe that the only person that could have got that done was Trey McNutt. And the heat that would have brought down on if he had left the state and gone and played football somewhere else his senior year, which he was prepared to do. It's a cool story. It's an awesome story, and it's going to go down in Ohio high school football history. I think it's a great thing. And already the number one player in Ohio next year, Rock Hill out of Hoban, is signed up for a 7-on-7 tournament. He's signed up with the South Florida Express squad, and he's going to be on with us either tomorrow or the next day. This kid's awesome. So I talked to Rock yesterday. He's like, yeah, I got to be at Penn State today, and then Purdue tomorrow and Wisconsin the next day. And then we'll talk. Like, this dude's right in the middle of this. And I think that's really cool to talk to somebody when they're right in the thick of not only this, but 7-on-7 with the South Florida Express. Obviously, that's where J.J. Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Innes played. And we could probably get some really good insight onto how that all operates, how that works, how you get on with them from Akron, Ohio, Do they call you? I don't know. How does all that work? I want to find out. We'll ask Rock and we'll find out how that goes.
Go Bucks.
Our guy, Coach Locke, has got a couple of new recruits. So Coach Locke has been in contact with Marquise Davis's dad, and he's been trying to get a visit scheduled. Jordan Davison and Bo Jackson, he already has a relationship with. And those three guys are going to remain at the top of the board. That's not going to change. But he has put 2 offers to some guys that he was previously on while at Oregon. And he has scheduled a visit with a local kid out of Columbus. Now, I checked all 3 of these guys out. And Coach Locke, he doesn't like what we've been saying all along when we were looking for the running back coach, that the running back coach position is primarily a recruiting position. It's the number one thing you need to be is a good recruiter, and everything else is kind of secondary to that. He doesn't like that. In fact, he finds it offensive. He wants to coach, and he wants to be thought of as a great coach, which is no surprise when we talk about this guy's background, everything he has been through to try to get to be involved in the coaching world. He grinded really hard to get there. And now, once he got his break, he is rising very fast. So he's obviously a very quality coach, but he does not want to be thought of as a recruiter, and he wants to be a coach. And his philosophy in coaching running backs is toughness and physicality. This dude wants bangers, and I think that we got a little insight this week into exactly how serious he is about that. Enter Shakir Mills-Knight, an absolute bruiser out of Memphis. He just got an Ohio State offer. Coach Locke was in on this kid when he was out at Oregon. Now, this dude is listed at 6'2", 210. I believe he's heavier than that. He is the 29th ranked running back in the country per 247 composite. He's a 3-star. I believe that's probably an accurate ranking because he's pretty slow. I mean, he's not slow. He's very fast, but when compared to the backs we're used to, he's slow. But there's a place for a back like this. He's a bring the boom kind of back, and he loves football. You can clearly tell it. And this is kind of what Coach Locke is all about. I believe he wants one of these physical kids probably in every class moving forward. And this kid's tough. I really liked him a lot. So I got to say, not very fast, but I think that there's definitely a place for a guy like this on the roster. The other prospect that he offered that he was on when he was out there at Oregon is De'Aaron Hill, and he is 5'11", 185. He's a top 100 prospect, just barely. And I believe he's a little overrated. He's really fast. He's got a crazy 13.6 yard per carry average, so he breaks off a lot of runs. He plays in Illinois, but he plays in Division I in Illinois, so the best competition that they have to offer. One thing you notice is he doesn't use a lot of extra wiggle or moves. He's kind of a one cut and go guy. He gets to where he needs to go in as few moves as possible, which is something that they try to beat out of running backs when they come up to college, because a lot of the guys like him that are kind of jittery, they just got too much. It's just too much extra stuff. They try to simplify the running style. This kid's already there, so that's good. He is a track guy, not incredible track times. He's not super fast, but he's good, and he's got an offer, and he fits in more with the mold that we're used to seeing from an Ohio State running back. Not just his ranking, but he just kind of looks and runs like we're used to seeing. To me, this kid's ranked with Marquise Davis and Jordan Davison right around there. I don't think he's quite close to that, to be honest, but he's an exciting prospect nonetheless. But the most exciting prospect of the 3 of these is a kid right in the backyard. I didn't even know about him, but he is absolutely legit, incredibly underrated. I watched this kid. I was blown away. Kentrell Reinhardt out of Westland High School, 24/7 composite has him as the number 42 ranked back and number 475 nationally. He's a 3-star. Rivals does have him as a 4-star, but the guy's listed at Rivals at 6'2", 220. And for a guy that is 6'2", 220 to move as fast as this man does, it's extremely rare. We're talking about a guy who had 3,000 all-purpose yards last year. His breakaway speed is tremendous. He moves in small spaces pretty good for a guy that size. Kid is just really, really good, and I would absolutely love if they offered this dude. He does not have an offer yet. He's not exactly seeking contact like Shakir Mills-Knight, but he's not afraid of it. He does not have an offer. I really want him to get an offer. He's dynamite. He's one of my favorite backs in this class, and I just met him. I love this dude. like I said, these guys are the second tier guys on the board. I saw a lot of people getting kind of concerned when these offers were coming out or these visits were coming out. Like Reinhardt visit was getting scheduled, and they were concerned, putting under tweets like, "What about Davison? What about Marquise? What about Bo Jackson?" Those guys are going to stay at the top of the board, but it's always good to have secondary plans. Remember, Tony Alford left us with a no running back class, so this is great. Not only that, it puts a little heat on those guys at the top. You know, a lot of times you got to put some pressure on guys. A lot of times they play games, coaches play games. It's a whole game going on here. But I'll tell you what, any one of these guys we'd be happy with. I think you found some gems. I really do.
Go Bucks.
I would really like to know what you guys think about Coach Locke's philosophy, which is very old school Ohio State-y, and we haven't seen it in quite a while. The dude is just about physicality from the running back. He wants to wear him down and beat the defense down. He wants to beat him up. He wants to make him not want to tackle him. And I like it. I missed it. I didn't realize I missed it until I started hearing him talk. And I'm like, man, I do miss an Ohio State offense like this. But he's not a finesse guy. He's not a finesse guy at all. You know, we actually saw Travion last year really bringing the boom, which was pretty fun to watch. And I think it stuck out to us all like, whoa, look at him getting in there like that. So it's awesome. Now, I think as we move forward, that he's still going to shoot for the moon when it comes to recruiting with the top guys. And I do also think that he is going to keep trying to bring in another one of these big nasties also. If he can get that all in one combination, all the better. But if he can find him a 3-star big nasty, I think he's going to go get one, because I really think he loves this kind of style of back. And I do too. I do too. But that kid out of Columbus, Reinhardt, he is legit. I'm from Northeast Ohio. I don't catch a lot of Columbus high school football, but if I did, I would go watch this guy play. Now, there's another guy that Bill Kurelic has been high on this entire process, and he's brought him up a lot of times, and that's Jeff Overton out of Virginia. 885th rated running back. I'm sorry, 885th rated overall prospect, which, you know, I don't care about ratings. If you can find a diamond in the rough, I think it's even more impressive. And I think that Jeff Overton was Tony Alford's diamond in the rough. He's not somebody that I think that Coach Locke is going to gravitate to. I think his diamonds in the rough are the big nasties. Jeff Overton is built more like Dyer Hill, just not as fast or productive or good. So that's what I think. I love Coach Locke's philosophy, and I'm really buying in on this guy more and more as we go. So excited. Running backs are my favorite, always my favorite since I was young, my favorite tape to watch. I love a good running back. I love seeing their different styles. And I'm telling you, this Columbus kid, Reinhardt, man, watch this dude. His straight line speed for his size is something. Follows his blocks. Looks like he's been coached by a pro. I mean, he's just, or it's just natural. Either way, he's something. He really is. I was not expecting much when I queued that tape up. He is something. It was exciting. I sent it to my brother. He said the same thing. Yeah, really exciting kid. Hey, it's Juck, and MyBookie has some free cash for the Juck on Bucks audience. Open up an account today at MyBookie, and we're going to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000 in free bets with the promo code JUCK. If you're new to sportsbooks, this is a good one to start at. And if you're an old vet, they got everything we want. It's very simple to use. You can pull out your winnings instantly, and they have an extensive selection of wagering options, including straight bets, parlay bets across sports, odds boosts, and even free plays pop up every now and again. If you like props, they got a whole slew of those, and these guys even got a casino over at MyBookie. And to let us try that out, they got a $10 casino chip with our promo code JUCK. I like to bet some basketball during the tournament for a little bit of fun. I go a little heavier during football season, but no matter what your sport or your favorite wagering option is, you can find it at MyBookie. So open up your account today at MyBookie with the promo code JUCK, because betting is fun, but betting with somebody else's money is even more fun. Check them out. We talked last week about Trevor Etienne. That is Travis Etienne's little brother, Georgia running back, the one that transferred from Florida to Georgia and then talked some crap about Florida for no reason, just because they're bad. Now, I've made it clear how I feel about Billy Napier. I think he's not a very good coach, not suited to run Florida or any big program, and he's probably going to get fired after this year because their schedule is the hardest schedule I've ever seen in my life. And Billy's already on the hot seat. But Etienne chose to go there knowing that they had a, long way to go to get good, and then to turn around and bash them just because they're not good and go to Georgia. Just the whole thing seemed just, I don't know, unnecessary. So I didn't really like the dude to begin with. Then he went and got himself a DUI. And that DUI contributed to the 300 citations that Georgia players have gotten when it comes to driving since Kirby Smart took over. So he gets himself a DUI in spring practice. The Georgia fans all hop on and they're defending this kid for getting a DUI by saying that 19 and 20-year-olds in the state of Georgia, if they just have a sip of alcohol, then it's considered a DUI. Well, the police report came out and it's not jiving with what they're saying. So first off, of note, he was driving a 2024 RS7, an incredibly expensive and fast car. Good for him. But not when you're driving it like a jerk. The policeman noticed him when he slammed on his brakes at an intersection, screeching the tires. So the cop goes and trails him. Etienne speeds up. He's going 80 to 90 in a 45, passing two cars, one of them on a blind curve. Now, that's obviously head-on collision city, and he ends up getting flicks on the lights. Etienne stops at an apartment complex, gets out. He was swaying side to side, slurring his words, refused a breathalyzer. Just to reiterate, there were 2 deaths at Georgia in a drag race. And that was just about a year ago. So Kirby comes out and says his program does a better job educating the players than anybody in the country, or something to that effect. And I mean, at some point, it's just going to take maybe some discipline. And I expect to see finally some real discipline from Kirby when it comes to this issue. But I just find this crazy. Carson Beck, this dude's showing off his new Lamborghini. I don't know what it is that one school can have this many issues with one particular thing. And that's driving citations, drag racing, whatever it is, DUIs. I don't get it. It's the weirdest thing. I can't recall any one school having such an issue with one particular thing, but it's embarrassing for Kirby. It really is. And he's been very soft on it. So we'll see what he does when it comes to Etienne. But, it's about time somebody pays the price or gets some kind of consequences for this action. They call Ryan Day soft, by the way. Ryan Day is not soft. And Ohio State doesn't have these problems. They don't. Quality young men that I'm proud of. This stupid chair hydraulic sinks during the show. It goes down. I can't stand it. 24/7 ranked facilities. So the Woody Hayes Athletic Center ranked 7th in their facility ranking. And this polled a lot of players as well as some other jazz that they ranked it by. Oregon is number 1, which, yeah, I would have guessed that. Texas A&M is number 2. Alabama is number 3. Clemson's number 4. Georgia's number 5. LSU is number 6. Big Ten teams in the top 25. You got Illinois at number 22, Michigan at number 16, Maryland at number 15, and number 11, Northwestern. They built a beautiful complex right on the lake. It's gorgeous. But notably absent from the Big Ten, Penn State, Nebraska, which surprised me. They spend a ton of money on football there, and they got a big NIL too. Iowa. I mean, how bad do you want it, guys? We can't want it for you. How bad do you want to be at football? How bad do you want to be good at football? So it's clear the facility arms race is back on, and Ross Bjork knows what's up. So new facilities are coming. The Woody Hayes Athletic Center had its 3rd update since it opened in 1987 in 2019. That cost $8.7 million. Georgia just rolled out a new complex, 136,000 new square feet. It's got everything, a theater, an auditorium, just beautiful stuff. A 2.5-story weight room that overlooks the indoor practice field. Awesome medical. So they got their own MIR and CAT scan machines in there. Just a ridiculous complex. You could probably put some hotel rooms there and people would pay big bucks to go just check this joint out and stay there overnight. It's so cool. Auburn, same thing in 2023. Just big, beautiful, awesome facility. And the Buckeyes, they're going to be getting on this kind of train here soon because Ross Bjork is saying, I want another one. I want one of those $100 million facilities that they got. And that's what they cost, about $100 million bucks. So if he wants it now, the planning and construction out of Georgia took them 2+ years just for the planning and construction. So if you figure Ross is going to have to do 2 years of planning and construction, first, he's going to probably take him 2 years to get the project greenlit. So we're probably looking at 2028 or 2029 when we're going to have a new Woody on campus. So if it was updated in 2019 and we're talking 10 years to the next one, that's about the pace they've been on since every time they updated. It's been about 10 years because they've done it 3 times since 87. So it's good. I think it's great. Spend some money that the football team brings in on the football team. A lot of that money that the football team brings in goes other places. And, I'm disappointed, but I've forgotten to talk about this to any of the recruits we've talked about. I want to know, how much does this matter to anybody? And you might say being the 7th ranked facilities is just fine. And it is, but we're talking about what is it going to be ranked 5 years from now? Because every year you wait is one more year. It's going to take 5 more years from then until you roll out a new facility. So, you kind of got to stay ahead of the curve here. If you're at 7 now, listen to this. I'm sitting here talking about facility rankings, like we're talking about team rankings. Yeah, I get it. It's silly. It is. It really is. But do you remember how big of a deal this was? I don't know, 10 years ago, the facility arms race. It was funny. It was really funny. And yeah, I remember when Clemson first built theirs with a slide. That slide was all the big deal. I'll put a picture up of that slide. It probably looks ridiculous now, but it was cool then. But all those schools are Southern schools, except for Ohio State, which in Oregon, obviously. But Oregon is like a totally different entity with the Nike thing. Now, I talked to Max Torres from Ducks Digest the other day, and I was asking him, trying to get to the bottom of the money. I want to know a little bit more of the inside stuff about the Nike and the Oregon relationship and the money. And he couldn't really give me any additional information that didn't air. But I tried. I tried to dig for some more, but I didn't get anything. But I really am interested in just how can they just get whatever they want. I don't know. I don't know how much money they can get. But they sure got the best facilities. They got a ton of NIL money, that's for sure. They pretty much did whatever they wanted in the transfer portal, getting a starter in Gabriel and then a backup starter in Dante Moore. But interesting stuff. However, I want to know what it is about northern schools outside of Ohio State that they won't spend money like they do in the South. And my favorite, he's not really a writer anymore. I don't think. I don't ever see it anymore. But Doug Lesmerises, formerly of the Cleveland Plain Dealer. This guy was my favorite Buckeye writer for a long, long time. Also, in press conferences, he would bring consistently the most adversarial. Now, talk about this again. The role that they're supposed to play, the way that job is supposed to work, is it's supposed to be an adversarial role, not a complimentary role. And Doug Lesmerises did it properly. He still does when he's in the press conferences, but he's not there all the time anymore. And he just always asked the proper question and got the best answers out of the guys. And I loved it. Well, Doug and Bill Landis are now at the podcast together. And Bill, also one of my favorite guys on that beat, very knowledgeable about the X's and O's and the offensive line. And I really enjoy listening to him too. And I enjoy the topics that Doug comes up with on their podcast they do together. It's an Ohio State podcast. They do it once a week. Now, as I said yesterday, coming at this now from the creator angle instead of just the consumer angle, which I still consume a lot of stuff, but also doing a show, I never realized how difficult it is to find interesting topics when there's nothing going on. And I think Doug does an excellent job of that. And I'm really appreciating the reasons that I liked him so much. From this angle, I'm appreciating it even more because it's difficult sometimes. It really is. But the other podcast those two do are a podcast that is specifically devoted to Northern college football. Now, when I had Kirk Barton on, I brought up to him and had him walk us through the 2006 and 2007 championship games. And the reason I feel that the 2006 championship game was so consequential is because those games, not so much the 2007, but the 2006, they kind of cemented the new talk of, at the time, the SEC being the dominant conference. It started right there. They basically changed the narrative forever, and it's never stopped since then. And I remember when I was younger, we used to just kind of make fun of the South and their football because they were so insular. The way they talked about themselves, were the best football, the way they clicked up with each other like they were all one group. I thought it was weird. We know what those reasons are. The reason they're like that, obviously, U.S. history has a lot to do with it. The fact that they didn't have professional teams has a lot to do with it. The fact that the national media and the sports writers are all based out of mostly the Northeast. They got ignored for a lot of years. The Heisman Trophy, they got ignored with that. When we talk about the blue bloods of the sport in Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, Nebraska, USC, Notre Dame, Texas, and Alabama, they're only represented by one team in that. And the Ohio States and Michigans and Notre Dames and USCs and Oklahoma's got all the Heismans and all the hype. And it just created a culture of they felt second class treated in college football, and they became very insular. Within that grows a culture. Southern college football has a culture. And there's a reason that they hate Ohio State down there, and it's because Ohio State is their rival from the North that actually cares and invests as much in football as they do. We look at all those facilities. We look at recruiting. We look at NIL. It's all SEC and Ohio State. And now Oregon, you can sprinkle them in too. Clemson, you can add them in some of those departments, but not in NIL. They're not in it like that. They're a smaller school. They are very Southern in the way they act, but they don't have the money like those schools do. That facility that they popped up, I mean, kudos to them for that, but they're not doing NIL like anybody else is down there. Now, I could say as an Ohio guy that I have far more in common when it comes to college football with the fan bases of Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and LSU, even Arkansas and Mississippi State, than I ever could with fans of Iowa and Wisconsin and Purdue. They just don't care enough about football. They just don't. They don't care enough to fund NIL. They don't care enough to build facilities. They don't care enough to try to do better. How long have we seen Iowa and Wisconsin struggle to get skill players to come to Iowa and Wisconsin? It's almost like they've given up. And in an NIL era, are we really supposed to believe that they can't go down to Texas and outbid Rice, or go to Florida and outbid Florida Atlantic to get a couple guys to come up and play for them? I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. And there's a lot of skill players in Florida and Texas that are 3-star skill players that could really help at Iowa and Wisconsin. And once in a while, you could snag you a 4-star. And I just don't see them doing it. Now, I got a lot of faith that Luke Fickell is gonna shoot higher up there at Wisconsin. He's not so far. He's got his class currently ranked at 15 in the country. He's got a lot of players in it, but the average player ranking is like an 87. So basically kind of where Wisconsin always is as far as the caliber of player. And he's just kind of filling it up like Marcus Freeman's doing at Notre Dame. But he probably needs that right now. He feels like he needs to get his guys in there, kind of turn around the roster a little bit. And he'll probably have a really big class this time. And I think that he's going to get himself some really good recruits. But I don't know, man. How much do they really care? Unfortunately, I just don't think there really is a Northern college football identity. I wish there was. I really do. But when we look at Northern college football, you've got Ohio You've got Western Pennsylvania and Southern Michigan, and a little bit of Indiana. And I think that's the entirety of Northern college football identity. I don't feel any connection, I guess is what I mean, to the Iowas and the Wisconsins and the Minnesotas and the Nebraskas. I don't feel any connection to them at all. I don't feel similar to them. I don't feel like our programs are similar. I feel nothing for them. Now, I root for them when they're playing in a bowl game against an opponent that's outside the Big Ten. I always have. It doesn't bother me if they don't win, and I don't take offense. I guess in a sense, I've almost been irritated by the other Big Ten schools for a long time because we had to carry the weight of the entire conference for so long. And not only could they not give us good games on the field, but they couldn't go represent the conference against anybody else outside in bowl season. So, yeah, I just don't feel the way they feel in the SEC. And it doesn't bother me that I don't, but I would rather if we had some kind of Northern football culture. I just don't think there is one. I don't feel any connection at all. I'd be curious if you guys do. I just don't. Now, Nebraska, I like their fans a lot, and they sell out that stadium no matter if they're good or bad. They got their NIL pumping. So I kind of can relate to the Nebraska fans. So I guess there's one. I can relate to them, though they're way too nice. They're nothing like us when it comes to that. I mean, we're nice, but they're just like overly polite and nice, which, I mean, it's almost eerie. There's just no reason that Wisconsin and Iowa can't get their NIL as good as Nebraska. What are we talking about? Same population, right? I mean, I'd have to double check, but Wisconsin's definitely much higher population than both of them, but Iowa and Nebraska, pretty similar. But listen, now we're seeing Matt Rule in Nebraska, and things are getting exciting. And I think that Matt Rule is the type of guy who can run a very competent program. I think he's a really good coach, and we're starting to see some momentum in recruiting at Nebraska. Hey, he might be able to get them back up and running. And to be honest, after all the years they've been down now and the fan passion at Nebraska, I wouldn't be mad to see that at all. We don't have a lot of our audience isn't very young, but when we look at Illinois, they used to have some tough teams. They used to give the Buckeyes all they could handle for more than 2 or 3 years. I just feel like so many more of these Big Ten schools could be good at football. They just don't care as much as we do. And that's why I don't share any identity with them. I brought up Dan Lanning recently, and not because I'm some big Dan Lanning fan. I'm just impressed by the way he went into Oregon and said, we don't have to be this. We can be this. And now they're in on every big time recruit Ohio State's in on. And that's impressive. And I feel like all of those schools in that region there, Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, can just aim to be one notch higher than where they currently are. And I think they can get it done. And it's just been bothering me for a long time to be in a conference with all these other schools that just don't seem to care as much. And I don't relate to them. So Ohio State will continue to compete with the best of the best in every area and stand alone as the only school in the North that does it like that. And the thing I love most about the expanded conferences and the expanded playoffs is the opportunity to play more games against more schools that care like us. It's the only silver lining to me if we go to this NFL format. Because you're not going to be able to stay if they go to that format. You're not staying if you're not bringing in money to the league. Like these schools that aren't putting money into their programs and don't have any fan support, the Northwesterns and Vanderbilts, they're gone. And if you've got, if you're a team like Indiana and there's somebody else like somebody that gets left out, let's say Oklahoma State is on the outside looking in. If Oklahoma State's a more valuable property, I don't think these long-standing relationships with the Big Ten and the SEC, I don't think they're going to matter at some point. I think they're going to start booting and relegating essentially. If there is a team on the outside that can bring in more revenue, we've seen this. This is all money for them. So I don't think these grandfather clauses are going to be working for much longer. The Indianas and Northwesterns of the world are going to have to step their game up. By the way, I really like Indiana's new head coach. What is his name? Signetti? This dude's cool. This dude's cool. This is the dude that called out Ohio State right off the rip in his first press conference. And I like that. Let the Indianas have some fun. The Indianas haven't had fun in a long time. You know what has always bothered me about the Woody Hayes? The indoor facility is very dark. The lighting is poor. It's very poor lighting, and it doesn't look like you would want to. It looks like you want to take a nap. It looks like the inside of a factory that makes rubber car parts. That's what it looks like to me. Let's see a couple other indoor facilities and how they compare. Obviously, this doesn't matter. We don't have to practice there. But to the people who do, I don't know, man. Looks like take a nap lighting in there to me. Now, I've not been there, so maybe it doesn't feel like that when you're inside there, but I will be there next month. Maybe I'll stand right behind Tony Gerdeman and Tom Orr and do a little video for you guys. But I'm not. The first thing I'm going to do is corner somebody, the highest ranking official I can find down there, and give them a 20-minute spiel on why we should have our gray sleeves back. So that's what I'll be doing first. But we're going to have fun. They officially messed up allowing this to happen. I was talking the other day about how strong Eli Lee, our linebacker commit in the class of 2025, was with that 530-pound squat that he repped 7 times. And I'm talking way past parallel, which is so tremendously different from most of the squat videos we see. And I got a message from Mike Winkler, the strength coach at Hoban, and he and I have been talking a bit. So he is he's a real meathead like me. So, we got things in common. Anyway, people have said on Instagram on Eli Lee's video, accusing them of using fake weights. That's how impressive Eli is. When you get fake weight accusations as a high schooler, you're doing something right. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Eli Lee is being accused of using fake weights in the Hoban locker room. They brought in fake weights to try to pump him up. Anyway, thanks, guys. I really appreciate all your support, particularly in the comments. So many of you are so encouraging, and it means a lot, and it keeps me going, and we are going. I think we're getting somewhere with our little show, and we're doing it together, and I'm having a heck of a lot of fun. So that's my show. Thanks for watching so much. You can catch me on any podcast format you like, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Chuck 'em Bucks out.